Stacy's World.
Woo! You are looking live at the GovCast 24, 2021. We're in the house. We made it through St. Patrick's Day. People are alive. Well, I'm not sure Dre did. She's lost.
Where is Dre?
She's lost.
Any updates? Nah, Dre's safe. HR, if you're listening, Dre is safe right now. She's just enjoying a team lunch with her team. All right. So
sure. Dre has not surfaced since St. Patrick's Day. So if you see her walking around the streets, bump into her, if you could send her back. Whoa! Stevie B made it through. I made it through. But Dre, I don't know. I don't know what to do.
Was there anything in Satellite Beach for St. Patrick's Day? They do a parade this year or anything cool?
Low key. I was up in Maryland. I drove up to Maryland and hung out on the Eastern Shore. So I don't know what was happening locally. I took a little trip up to my hometown, and so up there it was popping off. A little chilly, but doing St. Patrick's Day big time in Ocean City, Maryland. And they're trying to extend the summer up there. Anything to get more people back.
Of course. Yeah, let's have a car show. Let's bring some people down. All the reasons to
it worked, boy. It worked. Like people were like they were crammed in there. Everybody was dressed in green. So anything. Anything. American public is bored, so anything that gets them popping. Hey, Dre, there she is.
There she is.
We'll give her one more week. If she doesn't surface, we'll put out APB, and then we'll have to find a new third host. So there are openings. Send in your resumes. If you enjoy the GovCast, we might add a new third. So we were going to replace Steven, and now Dre, you never know. So hey, if you were with us last week, we actually had really, I think, our best webinar. I know we say that sometimes, but the most unique part, I'll let Steven talk about it, was really what we did last week was kind of talk about as we interact with folks on the government side and folks on the vendor side, inevitably, there's just a lot of things they share that are kind of like, I would just say off the record or the norms that no one really wants to acknowledge. And so really that's what we tried to do last week. We tried to share, we went through, I think, 20 some, hey, here are real things that happen, kind of tips, secrets, tricks that work in the government sales world. And so if you missed that, encourage you to go watch it. It is great. So Steve, tell the people what happened.
Yeah, well, first, if you did not attend, you can go watch the replay. So we uploaded it to our website. So if you go to govsalesuniversity.com, there's a webinar tab at the top and just select the top drop down of tips and secrets, or you saw the URL on the image before. Hitting you from the trifecta here. So yeah, tips and secrets. So Jack mentioned, there's 20. So we broke it up into 3 different sections, but it's really just about how do you position yourself? Because a lot of people are just like, where do I start? What do I need to do? They just sign up for sam.gov. They start filling out bids. And that is really the opposite of what you should be doing. Sorry if that's what you're doing right now, but you're just going to be banging your head against the wall. So our tips and secrets are to help you win deals in days or within the month itself to cut down. And a lot of it's being proactive. It's forming those relationships, calling agencies, not just waiting for these bids to come in. Because listen, if the bid's out there, everyone else is going to see that and it becomes competitive. So the more you can get behind the scenes, as Jack was saying, like things are happening behind the scenes, and that's the 80% of government spending. So the reason for this webinar is just to tell you how to win those deals behind the scenes to make your life easier, a lot less paperwork, shorter sales cycle. And it's also great for the agencies because they're trying to find vendors. So if you reach out to them, it's a lot easier to make those connections and get the deals done.
Yeah, I think the number one tip, if I remember right, was like, don't respond to bids and RFPs. Like that's literally the number
tip
one.
Number 17, I think that was.
So it's so true. When people think about the government, like, I need a bid and RFP. And it's like, no, don't go do a bid and RFP. It's like, takes a long time. It's right on a term paper, most competitive, least margin. Don't go bid on a bid and RFP. Would not recommend that for anyone to start the sales process. That is not the place to be successful. And it's where folks get frustrated and they're like, I'm not doing this process. So again, I thought that, and that will be one session we mentioned we really won't do again. It really is. We kind of do it in a vacuum because we want to be sensitive to it. You know, when government folks share, here's what happens behind the scenes, and some of the companies share, hey, this is what we really do. we want to be sensitive to that, right? So we tried to make it neutral. We didn't kind of disclose anyone's secrets, but we wanted to share, hey, here are real world things that happen in the Gov sales world that could make the entire difference in all of your efforts. So if you're going to watch any webinar we ever do, highly recommend you go watch that one. It's amazing. Just a whole series of just little tips and tricks. None of them are going to blow your mind. You're not going to be like, I've never heard that before, but it's just applying them in the right way can have such a dramatic difference in your success. And again, we say all the time, government is the largest prospect in the world. They freaking buy everything. And so important during COVID, they always pay. And so those three things, super, super important. So go watch that webinar, no matter what you do. Even if you don't like the GovCast, those are all for free. So go hit that up. Super, super good. Amen. Any last words on last week, Steve?
You covered it. Just go watch it. Go in, it's free information.
Oh, did we send out? No, we did. We did.
Oh yeah, we always do a raffle. So if you don't attend our webinars and you join our GovCast, come to a webinar. I'm sure you'll appreciate it. We always do stuff
away. We give stuff away there that we don't do here.
We bribe you to come. So just a little tip if you get in there. I think it was Amazon gift cards we gave away this time. So it's a nice giveaway.
Cool. So, Dre's lost in St. Patrick's World. Hopefully she'll be back. But today, listen, we're super, super blessed. We have Stacy Outlaw, who is the SVP of Marketing of Worldwide Assurance for Employees of Public Agencies, WAPA. I think I'm saying that right, so she'll correct me. So, Stacy, welcome to the show. Appreciate you joining us. Did I get it right? Is it WAPA? Did I say it right?
You're close. WAPA.
WAPA.
Just say it fast and you'll be fine.
I got to speed it up. WAPA. Got it.
Exactly. There we go.
DC, there it is. Look, in DC, everything's got to have an acronym. So
exactly. Yes.
Stacy's within the Beltway world, up in the DC world. And so for folks that may not know you, Stacy, why don't you give our audience just a quick little background on yourself and what you're doing and WAPA.
Sure. So let me start out with WAPA. We are a nonprofit organization. We've been around for over 75 years, and our target audience is the civilian federal employee. So we provide group term life insurance to those civilian feds. So our audience is not government contractors, and we cannot focus on military. So those in uniform are not eligible, but we are primarily zoned in on that civilian fed. A little bit about myself. I have been a creative forever. That's my background: design, marketing, just really all over the spectrum from where marketing was 20 years ago to now. It's amazing. But really the ability to just speak to people and get a product in front of them and be relatable is what our end goal is every single day.
That's amazing. And Stacy's won some recent awards that we'll talk about. And I think one of the reasons for our audience, there's two things we want to focus on. It's like, hey, marketing and brand building and that part of it. And then the second piece, which it sounds subtle, but those of you who followed us and follow what we do, I'm a huge believer that success in life and in sales particularly is really about the subtleties. And one of the subtleties I think Stacy can really talk to is her organization really focuses on employees that work for really federal agencies mostly, right? I think, and she can clarify that. But it's like, I think there's this thing like people that work for the government are like either weird or goofy, or you can't relate to them, or you can't find them. And so I'd love to start there. Can you,
Sure.
I know you offer life insurance to folks that work for agencies. Is it just federal, by the way?
It is. So no state, local, just federal.
Right. So can you share with our audience, like, your interaction with these folks? I think they feel like, oh, you work in the Pentagon, or you work for the Department of State, or whatever it is, you work in the White House, and people feel like you must be some super either hard to reach or
untouchable.
Right. And so can you just share with our folks, I know this is a weird question, but like how normal these folks are and how relatable they are. That would be, I think, so helpful for our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one in which we look at it as feds are people too. Right? Just because they may be the cream of the crop of their job and they may own the keys to the kingdom that keeps our country safe, or they may be on the back end pushing paper, and that's just as important depending on, what agency they work with. But at the end of the day, they are people too. They go to Nats games. They ride the Metro. Well, they used to prior to COVID, but, so it's really meeting them where they're at and knowing who your target audience is allows you to get in front of them. So some of that's traditional, and then other assets and ways of reaching folks is non-traditional. So right now it's all about digital. Everyone is zoned into either their mobile device, a computer. It's digital is where it's at right now. There's not a lot of out of home marketing that's going on just because of COVID and what we're dealing with.
Can you and then we'll kind of talk about the marketing piece.
Yeah.
In your client base and your target audience as a nonprofit, can you share with our audience, like what's the normal makeup of that group? Like, have they been in their job for, there's this stereotype, they've all been there for decades.
Yeah.
All 89 years old. So can you give folks, as they think about their marketing group, trying to talk to federal folks, like what does that look like? Can you give them some demographics of who, what's in the bell curve kind of normal person in the Beltway working for a federal agency? What's that really look like? Cross-sectionally, demographic, age, how long they've been at places? Do you have some stats maybe that kind of fit the kind of in the bell curve?
Sure. Yeah. So it does run the range, right? You've got your steady eddies that have been in government since the moment they either jumped out of high school or out of college, and they've been there ever since. That is somewhat a true statement. Feds don't like to move around a lot. If they do, it might be to another federal agency rather than going into the private sector. Oftentimes what happens though is after they've served within the federal agency. Oh, we're going to get a guest appearance. I'm so sorry.
I heard a dog
What do you got? What do you got?
There.
What do you? Hey!
I knew she was going to do it. I knew it.
Great. Look, Steve's cat will pop soon, and my little puppy's going here too. So that's perfect. That's a perfect fit.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's great. That's way better than anything we're going to talk about.
She thinks so. But yeah, feds, they don't move around a lot, except maybe toward the end of the career, and they may jump into contracting. So that's often a normal path. But you have the spectrum from small, just starting out on the GS scale, so younger audiences, all the way up to SESers who, they are seasoned and they've been in government for 20 plus years. So we see everything. Sorry, she's coming back.
That's awesome.
We're not talking to you right now. Get out of here.
What's the dog's name?
Her name is Pearl.
There you go. Pearl,
yeah, she wants an appearance for sure. Oh, now you're getting. Oh my gosh.
Let's get a full. We got a full Pearl. Yeah, let's get a full Pearl in there. There you go.
She's a mess.
That's awesome.
All right, we're done. So yeah, the audience does run from young, right out of college, high school, all the way to senior career, and then everything in between. So it's not one spectrum or the other, but I do agree that there's a lot of folks that once they get into the government, they get great benefits. They don't like to move around a lot. There's the stability factor. There's typically job security, minus government furloughs that have happened more recently than not. But,
Yeah. Can you, you mentioned quickly, because I think again, inside the Beltway, myself spent time there. We have this understanding about the government kind of HR model. Can you talk about the GS and the SES, kind of that? I think some folks maybe not even be familiar with those terms. So can you share with the audience like what that looks like from a government rankings perspective?
So the GS scale starts at a 1 and maximizes at a 15. And then if you want to go past GS 15, then you move into SES, which is more of and don't quote me on this because I'm not an expert, but it's more of the leadership piece of it. Now there's certainly leadership opportunity within the GS scale, the higher you go. But really that echelon level is the SES and above.
Yeah. So I think folks come in, normally they'll be in the GS scale, like GS 1 to 15, and just what job you have and your education.
Correct.
And then you'll work your way up. And then I think again, when you get to 14, 15, there's kind of like an executive.
Exactly.
Just like it would be in private industry. So I just want folks to relate to that. So when you call into a federal agency, you can sometimes graciously, don't be like, what's your GS level?
No.
You can kind of, sense where they are in the scale. By when you get their GS rating or the SES rating, you'll know kind of, what level in the organization you're interacting. It could be it's a really neat little way to, for folks that are familiar with it, they know right away. But if it's new to you, when somebody says, oh, I'm a GS 11, you have some idea how long they've been there and where they fit within an organization. So.
And where they are as far as being a decision maker.
Right.
So, that matters too.
Yep.
And all of that is public knowledge on opm.gov.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, we'll put that link in our comments below. But yeah, I'd love to talk to you more about marketing, Stacy. I know that is the world that you live in. I have passion for marketing as well.
He does. Yes.
Yeah, I started in as a media buyer for national broadcast television.
Okay.
So buying those 15, 30-second slots of airtime for our clients. And it was a great run. But you mentioned early on, you're like, hey, out of home is not too cool right now. It's all digital. So for folks that are trying to reach, employees at the federal level, what are some things that are working for you? Like if someone's trying to connect with, an employee at a federal agency?
Yeah. So one of the new things we're exploring right now, it's a partnership with Leadership Connect. And they are a vendor that provides information on federal employees. And so what you do is you have their contact information, and then you can distribute, whether it's through email. That's pretty much the main point of contact. And if they engage with you, then you can start a conversation. Now, the key is the recipient has to agree to it, right? They have to say, yes, I'm interested. Tell me more. So that initial touch point has to be spot on.
Sounds like a dating app. I think there's one like that with guys and girls. Like, if you don't
right. I'm swiping right, swiping left.
I don't know about swiping, but clicking is my thing.
So I guess, so once they connect, then you can communicate.
Exactly. Then you have permission to, take it to the next level.
Do the app again? Do the app. I think some folks that'll be new to them.
So it's called Leadership Connect. Yeah. And it's a vendor that is legit as far as the contact information that's out there. They do a lot of, verifying. Oftentimes when you get a direct mail list that you're purchasing, whether it's emails or addresses, the validity and the accuracy is usually maybe 30% or so. This is a great resource.
That's great.
That's great. So I know prior in your history, you were big into blogging or writing creatively.
Yeah.
Do you notice if that's working at all to get the attention as more of like a attraction instead of, outbound?
Yeah, I would say right now content is king. I mean, we are getting inundated as, with COVID and just the new norms that we're all having to deal with. So messaging matters, right? It's not only the right content, but married with the right design and put that in front of the right user. That's where your magic is going to happen. But the ability to really connect with someone and resonate with them, whether like for us, for example, with life insurance, it's a bit of a morbid topic. It's not something that's very sexy. And most people are like, don't talk to me about that. I'm never going to die. And so, you've got to be relatable to them and help them understand that, especially right now, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Who knows what's going to happen or how you could get impacted by that. So really finding ways to connect with your audience is huge. And again, that whole relatability piece matters.
The stats, my pastor was like, stats are 100 out of 100. So we're all going to go. So
100%.
Everybody's in your target market. So
exactly.
Can you, WAEPA, can you talk about WAEPA's, like what their mission, your marketing, and then we'll I know there's some things we have some actually the materials that Stacy and her team have created. We actually have a video as well we might show. And so can you talk about like WAEPA's marketing effort? Like as you're reaching out to folks, that work for government, like, what's the core message? What's the core target? What's the internally? Because I think that's what our audience is, internally they're doing. Hey, how do I reach out? How do I reach people? So what is the organization? What's your target? What's the rationale, the thinking, the messaging? Can you share some of that with the audience?
Yeah. So our mission is to provide peace of mind to civilian federal employees. And at the end of the day, life insurance is about protecting not you necessarily, but the ones that you would leave behind. And so we've been, since our inception, we've been making sure that civilians are aware of us and that they have the ability to take a policy and then know that they're protected, their families are protected. The way that we do that varies. Finding civilian feds is a challenge in and of itself. It's not as easy as, I work for the government and therefore, we can find those people. It's been It's been a difficult road, but there's a multitude of ways in which you can find these folks. And so we've done our philosophy is, again, meet them where they're at. Don't try and do some creative major change where it just is not relevant to them. It's really knowing who you want to go after and then finding out what their interests are, where they're going after work, what that looks like, and then blending the two. So you don't want to come across like completely out of the blue, because then they're going to be like, this just doesn't feel right, and and they're not going to pay any attention to you. So it's finding that blend throughout.
Someone's hanging a picture up there, I think.
I don't even want to tell you what's going on in my background. Oh my gosh. It's Pearl. We'll blame it on Pearl.
That's how we get into the top million. Dog visits, hats, banging. That's our sweet. That is our sweet.
That's the day I'm having today, you guys. I'm so sorry.
All right, look, 2 weeks ago, I'm in a condo. I had you'd have thought they were building a new condo right outside my window. It's good. I think our production team has some of the samples of some of the outreach. Can you So there are some as WAEPA looks to reach out. So I think some of those are on the subway. You can see it on the buses, like a way to message. Because I think most people are like, how in the heck do I reach folks in their space? And you know what I love about this? I think when everyone thinks about reaching out to the federal government, they're like, I need to get them at their agency in their direct thing. And I love that when I saw these, I think we have a video too that I could show. It's like, hey, they're not in their office, but we're also reaching them. You know what I mean? Like they're in a subway or when they see it on the street. I love those. Those are so great. So is there a genesis or the story behind that? Like life keeps growing. Like, is there the message, the story behind those messages?
Yeah. So it was a play on words in the sense of, we're a life insurance provider. And so we were playing on the messaging there of life moves fast. And so all of the themes throughout that entire campaign were revolving around life itself. So whether it moves fast, and then you would see us on a bus and the bus is going by. So it really was just tying in the product as well as the assets that we were using.
Yeah, I loved it. The messaging was great.
Yeah, so I remember putting together our media plans, right? There was the media buyers and the media planners and, out of home. And I was just trying to think of companies that don't have a budget to do those cool initiatives like bus wraps. What would be like the first thing that you think would have the biggest impact for someone that's just starting out? They have a business, maybe 1 or 2 employees to, get awareness out there.
Oh gosh, you're taking me way, way back. Before
I think Steven's trying to put his face on a bus.
Hey, that could work.
I'm a billboard guy. You drive down 95 and you'll see me.
I like it. Start small, whether it's social media, putting a presence out there, that's cost effective as well, and really making personal connections. I think LinkedIn is a great resource, especially if a specific agency that you're trying to go after. And then email marketing. That's an inexpensive way to connect with people as well. But don't just check a box with email marketing. Be intentional. Go, put your thought into it. Put yourself in the recipient's shoes. What matters to them? Answer those questions. Make sure it's relevant, because if not, they're going to delete you and you'll never hear from them again. So it's really putting intention behind what you're doing, and whether it's big or, huge scale and you're talking major marketing dollars, or super small. The other piece is personalization. People want to know that you are genuine and that you have taken the time to learn a little bit more about them, and that you care about what matters to them, not just you pushing a product.
I think it's so interesting when we talk to companies, they're like, I want to go work for the government, and they send a mass email that's totally generic. You go to their website, it has nothing about the government. All their stuff is vanilla, and they're like, no one calls me back. I don't have any government business. This sucks. And you're like, yeah, just like when you're hiring a plumber. If the guy rode by and he was an electrician, you wouldn't hire him as a plumber. So you have to have a feel. Even like you could send just for the audience, you could send a mass email, just say to folks that work with the Navy, applying some Navy thing to it. But if you think you're going to mass email, 250,000 people that work for the federal government with some generic email and hope it lands well, listen, they get stuff all day.
They see through it. Yeah.
They're just like, Right.
Yeah, you do. You have to have some type of differentiator, but again, it's meeting their needs, not yours.
Right. Right. And having some sensitivity, I think, is great of like, hey, what does the agency want? Right. Like we can be so myopic. Like when we think about, I want to sell my product. I want to sell it to the government. And like, that's fair. Right. That's totally get it. We're all that way. But then be able to take what you do and how does it help a challenge with a government agency can be amazing. Like think about what just happened in Texas with a snowstorm. That would be a whole new market for a lot of people that are in the kind of weather related snow, because those folks are freaked out, right? They've never had to deal with that. And so when you're able to capitalize on opportunities, we all know about the PPE stuff, right? You may have made medical masks for years and we're like, it's just a side business. And then it exploded. Hand sanitizer exploded. All the PPE stuff, all of the acrylic, all of the plasticware, I mean, exploded. So being sensitive to what the agency needs, because the agencies are all serving their constituents. That's what you got to remember. You want to sell your stuff. They have a job. They're not for profit. They're trying to serve their constituents in the best way. And when you can marry that message up, literally your sales will typically explode instead of just targeting, this is what we sell and this is why it's so great. And we're like, I know, but we're not buying that right now. And so then it falls to deaf ears. So important, right?
Agree completely.
Do you have any advice? I know Stephen might just said this, but like about kind of how to distinguish your brand. I know some of the things you do are like in brand building is like when you think about it for your organization or especially up and comer organizations, is there any secrets, tips, insights? Like how does someone stand out in the crowd, right? At PPE, big thing, everybody, are there things you've seen be more successful either by the way they contact, the message, the coloring, anything that you're like, hey, as you try to distinguish yourself from the other 82 brands, are there things you've any nuances you've seen be successful?
So I think this may sound a little basic, but know your audience. The more you know about your audience, the more relatable you will be to that person. And then the other thing is, as far as differentiation, know your competition, know what other people in your space are doing, because that way you can position yourself differently. You know, okay, my competition is X, Y, and Z, excuse the background. But that way you can position yourself differently. So it looks a bit, she's not going anywhere.
So good.
Oh my gosh. Position yourself so that you are, you're at the top of their list. If they have 3 people, why should they choose you that all do the same thing? And if you can answer that well, then that'll help you stand above.
Yeah. It's one of the tips I know Stephen, I'm sure he's salivating, is like, oh, that's one of the things you talk about all the time. How do you just slightly stand out in the crowd? If you can distinguish yourself, God, folks really latch onto that. It's so important.
It is. And it works. I mean, at the end of the day, it does work, but it's putting in the time. It's taking, doing a competitive analysis and understanding a survey of what's going on around you so that you can position yourself accordingly.
Yeah. And I know Stacy, in your background, I think you've also had your own firm and, now that you're with WAPA, can you talk about that? Like, can you talk about your journey from like being in marketing, and having your own firm and then taking this position and giving folks some kind of the reasons and rationale and, that journey? Because again, I think it helps people have greater affinity toward how do I reach out? Because there's a lot of folks that we all know, especially with digital marketing, there's so many PR people, there's graphic people, there's social media people. Like, can you share like, hey, here's the journey and here's what, that process I think would be helpful.
Yeah, so I did have my own business for a while, and do we have a guest appearance? Who is it?
She's a little smaller. Look, she's only a little. Lola makes she's a little 5-pounder. Here she goes. Hey, hi everybody.
Oh,
so
super cute.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I did have my own business for a while, and it was all about marketing, and I focused on small businesses as far as branding and helping elevate who they are and position themselves. And regardless if you're a big brand or not, it's all about how you can connect with your end user. And so my journey was, working with small brands, helping them really establish what they were good at and focus on that. You don't need to be good at everything. You don't need to position yourself in that way. And there there are a multitude of channels out there that you can market on or brand and so forth. But you don't need to do all of that. Like, stay focused on what matters, like what's going to bring you the best results, and not worry about what everything else is, because it's noise and you don't necessarily need all of that. Just hone in on the top 2 or 3 things and push aside the rest. And as the brand grows and as the results start to grow, maybe you go ahead and add on a new channel and start exploring things, or you start making a lot more revenue and you're able to have a larger marketing budget. I think those are great.
Yeah, going back to like all the years, we can put Waypa in that mix as well. But what is the one marketing thing that you did that kind of, I'm not saying like viral, like millions of views, but like attracted the most attention that you're like, man, I can't believe that worked. Like, you tried something and the phone's ringing or the emails are going.
It's always opposite, right? It's like when you feel like you got a good one, you're like, it but does. And then normally the random one, you're like,
oh my gosh. So early on, when I first started for the organization, I went to my CEO and I said, we have a bold campaign that we want to go to market with. And our major competitor is Fegly. And so as a civilian federal employee, when you start your first day, you receive Fegly, which is their life insurance policy. Okay. And so if you don't want Fegly, you have to opt out of it. And so that's our major competitor. And so within our out-of-home campaign, which is Metro, billboards, buses, etc., we went with the messaging, move over Fegly. So it was going directly after them in the sense of, we are an available option to your audience. And if they want to keep Fegly, they can, but they can also have us as a supplement. So it worked really well. And our CEO, he actually got a call from the CEO of Fegly, and he said, hey, I noticed you mentioned us on your buses. And so he was going to work one day and he saw it and he was like, oh my gosh. And so of course, then I got a call of, what did we do? And I said, we're fine. We're just letting people know that there's an option out there. And instead of putting our brand first, we put Fegly first, but that related to our audience. Most of the feds know Fegly. Even if they didn't know us, they knew Fegly. So it would grab their attention, right? So it was a backward way to promote our product, but it ended up, it was a bit of a risk, and we got noticed, but at the end of the day, it panned out. So
generated a buzz. I love that approach. That's great.
That is all in our wheelhouse. We love rocking the boat. Like anything that creates a little friction. Love it. What is it? All press is good press, or whatever that is. So
that's debatable.
What is it? All PR? Something? Yeah, we'll have to see. So I love that. I love rocking the boat. Some totally good. With the I know also for our audience, Stacy's been fortunate enough. She was the 2020 winner of the Gov Marketing University, GovMarks.
GMarkU.
Yeah, GMarkU, right? So they're a winner in 2020 for lead gen. So can you tell our audience a little about this? Is this from the campaign we just showed, and this just happened, right? A couple months ago.
Yeah, it is. And we were extremely honored to even be nominated, let alone win. So that was huge. And every year we try to get better and better. And so to get recognized, especially among the competition within the DC metropolitan area, in and of itself was, like I say, a huge honor. Yeah. But it really was a combination of multi-channel at its finest. So in addition to this campaign that you're seeing there, we had TV, we had radio going, we had email marketing. There was a lot of channels firing at once. And that really led to the high performance and the engagement of that campaign. It was relatable and it was timely. So we were able to generate a lot of new business from that awareness piece. And that really was just a saturation, if you will. We wanted to go hard in our backyard, which is in DC. Yeah. I like that. Simply because there's a lot of federal buildings, here. And so really getting concentrated, but hitting them on all cylinders. We did some advertising at sporting events. We were in the Capitol Arena. So if you were at a hockey game, we would have a saturation of all things WAPA, and you couldn't miss us, So it was just, it was a very, very, very successful campaign.
How big, can you give folks a sense for how big your team is to action this? Like some of there are some nice really programs. So can you give us a sense for how big the team is you work with?
Yeah, we are a lean, mean machine. We have 7 people total. And I will tell you, we work hard, and I could not do what I do without each one of them, because they give me their blood, sweat, and tears every single day, which does make it easier. But at the end of the day, it's also a team that's really passionate about what we're doing. And like I said earlier, life insurance is not sexy, and it's a challenge to make it relatable to people. So having that team of individuals that really is that believes in our mission, that wants to prove results and make a name for ourselves is where it's at. So
are you able to share, again, I don't want to divulge any corporate secrets. Hey, what does that look like? Of the 7, can you give it, like, is it, I see some digital marketing people, content people, like, can you give us, because I think folks like really, they're like, hey, how do I get there? What skill sets do I need? So can you hit on some of the skill sets you think are important to like have a good marketing program, marketing presence, being able to kind of reach people on a regular basis?
Yeah. And I don't want to sound generic, but it's a case by case basis. It matters on what's most important. So if email marketing is where you want to start, she's going to hang out for a minute. I'm so sorry.
There's your new
she's like, ooh.
Steve, where's your cat? Steve's not a cat and a dog.
Yeah, so I got a little separation thing going on right now. Cat and dog do not get along, like Tom and Jerry.
Shocking. I was gonna say, that's shocking.
That's not good.
No.
But to answer your question around what people need and if they're starting out, what that looks like. And so if email marketing is where you want to focus, I would make sure you have an individual that understands, whether it's Constant Contact or MailChimp, whatever platform you're using, who can really, elevate those assets and make sure that the messaging is strong. And it's really about, if digital is where you're at, then hire a digital person that really can hone in, understands SEO, understands how to make sure that you're ranking higher within your competition if people are searching for you. And so it's really a matter of what your focus point is, and then hiring the talent to help you get there. And the great thing is in the marketing realm and the branding realm, there are contractors out there, freelancers that are willing to, sometimes even do pro bono just because they want to get into a certain industry or they want to challenge themselves. So there's a lot of resources in the creative world to help you as you're building brand or with certain areas that you may not have the expertise for, whether it's social media or media buying, you can find it.
So my last one would be, are you able to share like any of the, what is some, you see a lot of different stats regarding a good return on different type of marketing programs. Can you share any of the like benchmarks maybe you use or you've used in your career? Like, hey, when we do a social media thing, here's what we kind of look for from either a number of leads or an ROI. When we saw the bus wraps, we saw the subway signs. Like when we do those, does your organization currently have like metrics? You're like, oh, if it's here, not so great, here, good, this one's great. Like, you have some benchmarks that you typically operate under?
Yeah. So for everything that we're doing, we have our KPIs. And with that, if I had the secret formula of how to exactly measure and get your ROI, I'd be rich, because in the marketing industry,
we're counting on right now. I'm writing all these down, so I'm counting on give us the $1 million answers.
We've been trying to figure this out for years, and I think it depends on what's important to you. Whether you're looking for acquisition, whether you're looking for just brand awareness, you have to define that in your campaign. And then once you determine, okay, all I want with this campaign is engagement. I want to know how many people actually saw this. And then once they saw it, what did they do? Right. So a lot of it is brand building, and it comes with that awareness piece. Now, there are heavy hitting campaigns where we want to go straight for the jugular, and we know we want this to convert for us. We want to get a policyholder at the end of it. And so the approach is much different, but it's everything in between, it's figuring out what's most important for you, depending on where you are in your funnel. Are you top of the funnel where it's just raising awareness and letting people know that you exist? Are you more middle funnel where you want people to, maybe you provide a white paper or a guide that's relevant that gets someone's attention? Or are you bottom of the funnel and you're ready to say, hey, I need you to, this is the call to action and this is what we need you to do. So the ROI varies depending on where you are and what you're trying to achieve. I know it's kind of generic, but.
It's about, like, I was writing down all the secrets I want to take to our marketing team, be like, listen, here's what listen, I think, look, before we let you go, I think Steven has some Stalker Steve type questions that fit in his wheelhouse of stalking people's background. Steve, you mentioned shoes earlier. So
yeah. I got some, I saw killer footwear. So I don't know if these moccasins are killer footwear.
Hey, I am a firm believer that if you give the right person the right pair of shoes, they can do anything for sure.
So what do I need? A pair of red bottoms? What do I need to get things accomplished?
Now we're talking. Yes. If you do, I'm going to be like, okay,
right.
I see you.
All right. So I'll get a paintbrush and paint red on the bottom of all my sneakers.
Hey, I won't judge.
Right, make sure it's tight. Get a good paint job on the bottom of the shoes.
I'll tape it off. Do a little trim work.
Is that all you got, Steve? Is that all you got? Shoes? You got nothing?
What's that? No, I just curious. She says, coffee and shoes is Stacy's world. So I'm just curious, What about
Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts?
Starbucks, 100%. Come on now. Does anyone drink Dunkin' anymore?
A lot of people do.
Oh, really? Oh.
It's across the street. What's your favorite Starbucks?
So, believe it or not, I don't even drink coffee. Like, I hate coffee. But I love their chai tea, which is syrup and sugar and caffeine, and give me all of it every single day.
I think Starbucks is so amazing because they've gotten away. Like, now, all those fruity drinks. And
it's ridiculous.
You don't even know. They're like, it's a coffee place?
No, and when they had that unicorn drink, I mean, what was that? Marketing. That's what that was.
Our producer loves the unicorn, all the unicorn. Look, she's backstage right now. Be like, that's my favorite. I love it.
Yes, unicorns.
See? It works.
Stacy, tell our folks how can they connect with you? How can they reach out for you? How can they see big things? What are you doing next? How would you love folks to kind of follow, connect, and see what you're doing?
Follow me on LinkedIn. That's the best place. I'm there typically every day. Reach out. Happy to connect. Happy to answer any other questions or help if you have, whether you're trying to target the civilian Fed or just general federal questions. I'm happy to be a resource or point you in a direction if I don't have the answer.
It's so great. Listen, for our audience, when folks are inside the Beltway, I'm just telling you, it's just a different world. So you sitting in Illinois, Indiana, Tennessee, trying to figure it out, talk to a couple of people inside the Beltway because they're cheating because it's just it's in the cycle every day. You go out to dinner, it's on the TV. So reach out to somebody like Stacy to help you figure it out. There's no reason you have to do it the hard way. Amen. Stacy, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate all your time and expertise. Wish you continued success. Congratulations.
Thanks, Stacy.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Appreciate it. God bless.
Take care.
Yes. Steve, I know. Look, that's right in your wheelhouse. Steve always starts with, "I started my career in New York City doing marketing." He gets the hair starts to stand up on his neck. He's like, "Man."
You think about it, right? We're here on the GovCast, and all we're trying to do is help people win business with the government, right? And marketing and sales go hand in hand, and bringing those things together is what people need for their plan. But it's like, what do? You start a blog, right? Or people post things on Facebook, but it's like, how do you get engagement, right? And I think it's a secret thing. And that's why I took away something she said today. She said, go hard in your backyard. So I love that rhyme, but that's what she was doing. But we always talk about starting locally, right? Because you want to win business with your local cities, counties, and schools, not just target the biggest agency like City of Miami or City of Orlando. Work with you. So that go hard in your backyard. I just love that marketing magic she spit out there, which I think we might use in some of our marketing pieces now.
Oh, you're taking it. She trademarked it.
I don't know if it's trademarked or not, but Stacy, if you could let us have permission to use that, because that goes with our process, Jack. It's like, hey, just start in your backyard, win business locally, then grow, then go to the federal, because the federal is going to want to see some past performance. So building it up early on, we get quicker wins to win those bigger deals.
I think all of our society is like tomorrow. Like I want McDonald's food, ADHD, all that. They literally, want to just jump right to the big stuff, and we all have to just pay our dues. You know what I mean? So, so important. So, Steve, you want to do one more webinar from last week and one more little shout out to make sure you.
Yeah, if you haven't watched it, what are you waiting for? You can go on. It's free. GovSalesUniversity.com. Click the drop down, and it'll be called Tips and Secrets. This is some of our best stuff. This is the stuff that people do not talk about that makes things happen behind the scenes. So it's straight to the point. We go through 20 examples. So just make sure you're doing all 20, because always there's 10 to 20 little things, Jack, right? It's definitely good from great. So if you're trying to get to that next level, you're doing good and you want to be great, make sure you're doing all of them, because I'm sure you're doing maybe a handful or maybe half or maybe 75%. But what are those 5 things that you're missing? So it's worth a half hour, 40 minutes. You just dive in, absorb the content, and it's free. You have that for the rest of your life. So, and if you love that, sign up for GSU, because we'll be helping you out.
There it is. There, I knew you were going to sneak that in. Look, GSU, GovSales. You could just stop at GovSalesUniversity.com. Stephen would appreciate that. So cool. All right. Well, great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Stacy, for your time. Hopefully today was great. We'll see you next Wednesday. Big time, doing big things to help make you great. Go good sales. God bless. We're looking for Trey. Where are you, Andrea? Come back. Where are you?